Welcome to Revisit Books podcast, where we turn books into bite-sized wisdom you can use every day. Today, we are cracking open a radically different financial philosophy. It's one that shifts the entire goal, really, away from just endless wealth accumulation and points it towards maximizing something, frankly, far more precious. Life fulfillment.
Yeah.
We're diving into a concept that kind of plays off that legendary fable, the ant and the grasshopper.
Right, the classic.
We were all taught the lesson, weren't we? Save diligently like the ant or, suffer like the grasshopper later. But this material asks a really profound, almost subversive question. What about the ant? The one who spends decades meticulously saving every single dollar.
Yeah.
Only to find they sacrificed all the best years of their life, the very years they actually had the health and the energy to enjoy those savings.
That's exactly the core tension here. And if you listen closely, you'll realize this philosophy isn't about your traditional investing strategies, the ones designed to make your money grow indefinitely.
Right.
It's fundamentally focused on making your life grow. And the author, he approaches this not as some kind of moral lesson about being thrifty, but really as an engineering optimization problem. How do you maximize the positive experiences, the fulfillment you squeeze out of your limited time on Earth, while simultaneously minimizing that tragic waste of, unused wealth and missed opportunities?
So let's start with a bit of background, because I think the author's credentials really matter here. He's not your typical certified financial planner.
Not at all.
He's Bill Perkins, an engineer by training and also a highly successful energy trader. His career demanded, rigorous analytical skills, complex probability stuff.
Exactly. That analytical, almost skeptical foundation is crucial because the entire framework is basically a guiding set of principles for allocating our most finite resource. Our life energy, as he calls it, basically the total sum of all the hours we spend being alive, and how to allocate that before, time runs out. And this wasn't just some idea hatched in a boardroom. The philosophy is heavily informed by a really painful, immediate wake-up call, involves people close to him. Yeah, it illustrates the true cost of delay. It's the story of John and Aaron. John seemed perfectly healthy, then suddenly gets a terminal diagnosis, clear cell sarcoma.
Wow.
Given mere months to live. And this brutal, immediate countdown, it forced Erin to quit her job instantly. Not to earn more money, obviously, but simply to exist alongside him in those final months.
Gosh, that's intense. And it wasn't a gradual decline, you're saying. It's just, boom, life hits a hard stop.
Exactly.
So what did they even focus on during that agonizingly short final window?
Well, not extravagant trips, because his health was already limiting that. They focused entirely on the present, on deliberate living. They went to the local park, watched movies together.
Simple things.
Simple things. And they took short, manageable trips, like to Boston for some experimental treatments, but seizing the chance to see historical sites while John could still walk, even just short distances.
Okay.
John died 3 months after the diagnosis. And while Erin was, of course, devastated, she had zero regret about the money she lost or the career step she missed by quitting. She was just grateful she chose to be present.
Right.
And this extreme case, it really reveals a profound, universal truth that most of us, we tend to ignore. Most people delay gratification indefinitely. We structure our lives as if the future is infinite.
Like time has no expiration date.
Precisely. So we put off doing the things that really define us, that bring us joy.
Which brings us right to the central thesis, doesn't it? It's just terribly short-sighted and kind of statistically illogical when you think about it, to constantly defer the experiences you desire. Saving money for things you might never actually possess the health to enjoy. The author posits this harsh analytical reality. Squandering your life, your finite time and health, that should be a far greater source of worry than merely squandering your money.
That's the core message.
You can, maybe, always make more money. But the hours of your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, they're gone forever. You can't recapture those.
Absolutely cannot. And it's really crucial, I think, to establish the target audience here, because this isn't general financial advice for absolutely everyone.
Right, good point.
As the author clearly states, this is absolutely not a survival manual. If you're, struggling with crushing debt or worried about putting food on the table.
Yeah, basic needs.
Your immediate focus has to be on survival and financial stability. This philosophy, it really offers maximum value to those who are past that critical struggle stage.
Okay, so people who've
accumulated enough money, they still have decent health, and crucially, they possess the agency, the freedom to make conscious, strategic choices about allocating resources across their whole lifetime.
So we're talking about people who are comfortable enough that they might actually be living suboptimally, as he puts it. Not because they lack funds, but because maybe they're allocating poorly.
Exactly. Either spending too little or, far more commonly in the demographic this material targets, saving too much.
Okay.
The material identifies sort of two common prototypes that need this philosophical correction.
Okay, who are they? First, there's Joe Nose to the Grindstone.
Yeah.
The extreme ant, right?
Yeah, classic example.
This is the person stuck in a loop, still working long hours, often at a job they might have stopped enjoying ages ago, purely for the sake of accumulating more wealth.
Yeah.
They're saving for experiences they'll likely never have because that habit, that deeply ingrained habit of working and accumulating, it's become addictive. It overrides the whole initial purpose of the wealth.
It does. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got suspendi, the extreme grasshopper.
Ah, right.
Now, the material acknowledges that, yeah, many people here die with zero and immediately panic about becoming that reckless spender.
Sure, it sounds scary.
And yes, individuals who spend too much too soon without carefully calculating their long-term survival needs, they absolutely risk future hardship. They should be concerned about running out of money.
Okay, but that's not the main focus here.
No. And here's the essential analytical distinction and really the core mission of this whole philosophy. This material is primarily aimed at dragging that oversaving, maybe workaholic ant towards a more balanced grasshopper mentality. The greatest waste the book seeks to eliminate is that tragic accumulation of money that someone will never, ever get to spend or enjoy.
Wow, so they're basically working their finite hours for money that just gets inherited, meaning they worked for free, essentially.
Pretty much. Worked for free for someone who's no longer around to use it. The goal here is efficiency in living, not just efficiency in saving. All right, so the first major lesson that gets introduced is this analytical concept called consumption smoothing.
Okay, consumption smoothing.
In financial theory, it's actually a pretty simple idea. It's about evening out your consumption, your spending across your entire life.
Right, so you don't have big dips later on.
Exactly. Transferring resources from years when you expect high income to years where you project lower income, like retirement. It minimizes those abrupt drops in your quality of life.
But the author learned this lesson in a much more aggressive context, didn't he? He calls it a personal slap across the face.
He does. It fundamentally altered his saving strategy. You gotta picture the scene. Early 1990s, he's a screen clerk on the floor of the New York Mercantile Exchange, the NYMEX.
Okay.
Making only $18,000 a year, living super thriftily, sharing a cramped apartment, even driving his boss's limo at night just to scrape together extra cash.
Oh, okay. Hustling.
Totally. And he felt immensely proud because somehow, against all odds, he'd managed to save $1,000.
Which was probably huge for him then.
Massive.
Yeah.
So he shares this achievement with his boss at the time, Joe Farrell, expecting, praise for being so diligent and thrifty. Instead of a pat on the back, Joe Farrell apparently called him a fing idiot for saving that money.
What? Why?
Because of consumption smoothing, but applied backwards. Farrell's logic was ruthless. Perkins was in a high-growth environment. His future earning power was virtually guaranteed to shoot up exponentially.
Ah, okay.
So by choosing to save that $1,000 then, when he was poor... He was essentially taking money away from a starving younger self to give to a future significantly wealthier self, which is the exact opposite of efficient resource allocation over a lifetime.
Wow. Okay, let's dig into the math of that, or rather the logic, because it highlights opportunity cost, right?
Absolutely.
That $1,000 saved at age 22, maybe it compounds safely into what, $4,000 by retirement? A decent return, sure.
Maybe.
But think about the opportunity cost in terms of utility of life experience. That same $1,000 spent on a defining, maybe life-changing backpacking trip, or on education or social experiences when he was young, poor, but energetic.
Yeah.
That could have provided an immediate, 10x return in memory dividends.
Yeah.
Personal growth. Growth that maybe helped him earn millions later.
That's the insight. It's crucial. When you are young, maybe broke, but highly confident in the trajectory of your future earnings.
The direction things are heading.
Right. Delaying gratification, saving, is often financially and psychologically inefficient. It makes profound rational sense to go for those life-changing, high-utility experiences now when your time and health capacity is at its absolute peak.
Even if it means borrowing a bit responsibly.
Even if it means borrowing modestly and responsibly to smooth that consumption upwards in your youth. The risk of delaying the experience far outweighs the small financial benefit of saving early in that scenario.
Okay, so we've established that money is just life energy, as he puts it. If that's true, then converting that energy into tangible experiences seems like the ultimate return on investment.
Exactly. And this isn't just a feeling. It's backed up by decades of psychological studies. They consistently confirm that spending on experiences leads to greater long-term happiness than spending on material possessions.
Right. The new car smell fades, the big TV gets replaced.
Precisely. Material things suffer quickly from hedonic adaptation depreciation. Experiences don't work that way.
And this is where he introduces that really unique concept, the memory dividend.
Yes, this is where the long-term compound utility comes in. Experiences actually gain value over time because we humans possess memory.
Okay, how's that work?
Every single time you recall an experience, you share a photo, you reminisce with friends, you use that story in a presentation, maybe give advice based on what you learn. You are receiving an additional dividend, another fulfillment point from that original investment in the experience.
And this dividend isn't just linear, right? He says it can actually compound.
It absolutely can.
Yeah.
When you share a deep memory, especially with people you care about, that act of bonding, of communication, it creates its own synergistic energy.
Like a chain reaction.
Kind of. It can provide far more fulfillment than even the initial event did. This is a return on experience that money just sitting inertly in a bank account simply cannot replicate, ever.
Which leads to the idea of wanting to retire on memories.
Exactly. And the powerful illustration he uses here is the gift he gave his aging, frail father. His dad was too old and unwell to acquire significant new physical experiences.
Right.
So Perkins gifted him an iPad, but it was filled with digitized highlight reels, newspaper clippings from his father's college Rose Bowl football season way back in 1959.
Wow.
His father didn't need money. He derived immense joy, pride, nostalgia just from reliving these vivid, treasured memories.
That connects directly back to rule number 2, right? Buy experiences, not things. And the timing matters hugely.
Critically, it pays to invest early. The closer you are to death when you have a wonderful experience, the fewer years you have left to reap those continuous memory dividends.
Right, fewer withdrawals from the memory bank.
You got it. He gives a telling comparison. His friend Jason took a year off, backpacked across Asia when he was 20. Decades of dividends from that story's growth perspective.
Okay.
Perkins himself regretfully delayed his own version of that trip until he was 30. He was convinced he needed more money first.
And the cost.
He calculated that by delaying just 10 years, he missed out on thousands of potential memory dividends, plus the critical personal development that would have happened during his foundational 20s. Delaying experiences is, in effect, a form of negative compounding on your life's richness. Now, probably the most profound trade-off we all face in life is balancing those 3 key resources required for maximum fulfillment: health, free time, and money.
The big 3.
And the kicker is they almost never align perfectly. Think about it. Young people usually have abundant health and free time, but they're typically cash poor.
Definitely.
Then, those in their middle years often have high money accumulation, but their health is starting to decline, and free time can be critically low, especially with intense careers and raising families.
The squeeze years.
Totally. And then the elderly, well, they often have high time and maybe high money, if they planned well, but often severely limited health capacity.
So this inherent imbalance means you can't just wing it. You need conscious planning.
Precisely. Which is why the material introduces the time buckets tool. It's rule number 7 for deliberate life planning.
Okay, time buckets. How does that work? Is it complicated?
No, the methodology is straightforward, but it can be terrifyingly effective. You basically draw a life timeline, divide it into maybe 5 or 10-year intervals, your buckets.
Okay.
And then you consciously, deliberately allocate your desired specific experiences into the bucket where they can be optimally enjoyed.
So you're matching the activity to the likely resources you'll have in that decade.
Exactly. And when you actually do this exercise, a hard truth usually emerges. Highly desirable, physically demanding activities, think mountain climbing, rigorous long-term travel, wakeboarding, even complex international sightseeing that needs a lot of walking, they naturally cluster on the left side of the timeline in your younger buckets.
Why is that so consistent?
Because the analysis of human longevity data confirms it. Health problems were increasingly a constraint as age increased. You might be able to afford that Everest Space Camp trip when you're 65, but you might not physically be able to do it or enjoy it if you did.
Right. This really highlights that rapid decline in what he calls time utility.
Yes, time utility. It refers to the subjective value you place on a unit of time based on your capacity to actually use it effectively.
So a year spent physically able to backpack across South America at age 25.
Has infinitely higher utility for physical enjoyment and personal growth than the same year spent, say, trying to manage chronic pain and limited mobility at 75. Regardless of how much money you have then, the money is simply less effective later on for many types of experiences.
It makes sense. If you were given, say, $100,000 right now,
Yeah.
you'd likely extract far more sheer enjoyment and variety of experience from it in your 20s or 30s than you would in your 70s or 80s, right?
Yeah,
When health constraints just severely limit those physical or adventurous activities.
absolutely. The utility of that money declines rapidly the longer you wait to spend it on experiences.
So the logical conclusion then is that investing proactively in your health, it's almost like a financial investment itself.
It functionally is a financial investment in your future fulfillment. Small, consistent steps now, exercise, diet, sleep, they help avoid massive negative compounding effects on your health later.
Okay.
He uses his cookie calculation as kind of a tactical analogy for this. He converts the immediate short-term pleasure of eating a cookie into the exact number of minutes he'd have to spend on the treadmill to burn it off.
Ah, really?
Yeah. It forces a deliberate, conscious choice. Is that fleeting taste worth walking an extra hour? It's that kind of calculation that helps maximize future experience points by actively maintaining your physical capacity, recognizing that movement truly is life.
All right, let's get to the big one. The ultimate, most provocative goal. Rule number 3, aim to die with 0.
Yeah, this is the one that gets the most reaction.
And let's be clear right off the bat. This doesn't mean, like, timing it perfectly so you hit 0 the moment before you die, right? The plan has to account for uncertainty.
Absolutely not. That's impossible and reckless. It's the powerful philosophical ideal. It's aimed at eliminating that profound waste of spending hours of your life earning money that you will never, ever use.
Because if you work hours for money, you don't spend.
You are fundamentally working for free, wasting your precious life energy.
He is an extreme example to drive this home, right? John Arnold, the energy trader.
Yeah, John Arnold, famously called the king of natural gas, an absolute genius trader, started his firm, Centaurus, with the goal of making millions and then, enjoying life.
Okay, sounds reasonable.
But his financial goalposts just kept shifting. He originally told himself he'd quit at $15 million, then it moved to $25 million, then $100 million.
Uh-oh.
He finally retired at 38 with over $4 billion.
Okay, wait. I have to push back here. This is where it sounds crazy to most people. The book argues that retiring at 38 with $4 billion was actually too late.
That's the argument, yes.
That sounds wildly reckless. If I aim to die with 0, what happens if I live 10 years longer than I projected? Or face some catastrophic medical costs that wipe out everything? How does he address that sheer rational terror of running out of money before you run out of life?
And that is understandably the most common and rational objection. And the author, being an engineer, addresses it analytically through conservative modeling.
Okay.
First, regarding Arnold. The tragedy wasn't about him running out of money, obviously. It was about losing crucial early years with his young family and then facing what's sometimes called the Brewster's Millions problem.
Brewster's Millions, like the movie.
Kind of. The challenge of having accumulated so much wealth that you find it genuinely difficult to spend it all on yourself or your family without resorting to wasteful measures or, worse, irrevocably spoiling your heirs. For Arnold, the thrill of accumulation simply overtook the thrill of living.
Okay, I see the issue there.
Yep.
But for the rest of us, how do we use this die with 0 goal without inviting catastrophe?
Right. It requires calculating two specific things very carefully. First, you absolutely must calculate your survival threshold.
Survival threshold.
This is the bare minimum amount needed to survive for a highly conservative expected lifespan, say aiming for age 100 just to be safe. And you account for very conservative investment returns and inflation. This is your non-negotiable safety net.
Got it. Protect the downside.
Absolutely. Once that absolute minimum threshold is calculated and you're confident it's met or will be met, then the philosophy dictates that all money beyond that threshold should be aggressively spent on enjoyable experiences while you still have the health to enjoy them.
Okay. And the second calculation?
That's rule number 8. Know your net worth peak. This isn't a number, it's a date. For most people, the optimal peak the date when they should stop actively accumulating wealth and start aggressively decumulating or spending down their assets. That typically occurs between the ages of 45 and 60. The focus shifts entirely from hitting some arbitrary number to finding the optimal date based on your biological capacity and that longevity threshold you calculated.
So the thinking is, if you die with, say, $1 million left over.
That's $1 million worth of experiences, travel, education, time with family, giving that you consciously chose not to have. From an efficiency standpoint, the author views that as profound waste.
Okay, but there's a major moral question this whole philosophy runs into constantly.
Right.
What about the kids? Doesn't the money have to go somewhere eventually?
Right, the inheritance question. The book argues pretty strongly that waiting until death to transfer wealth is actually highly suboptimal. It leaves the outcome entirely to what he calls the 3 Rs.
The 3 Rs.
Random amounts, delivered at a random time, received by random people.
Random people, meaning you don't know who your kids will be then,
Or who their partners are, what their needs are, whether they're even equipped to handle it. He challenges the perceived kindness of just leaving a big, unplanned pile of money. How is that considered caring or intentional?
Okay, so what's the alternative?
Intentionality, rule number 5, and the data supports this. According to Federal Reserve data, the average age people receive an inheritance peaks at around 60 years old.
60? Wow.
Yeah. And for many adult children, that money arrives far too late to have the maximum possible impact on their life trajectory.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
If the goal is maximizing utility, maximizing the benefit of the money, what's the optimal age to transfer wealth to your kids?
Well, the sweet spot, logically and based on sociological needs, seems to be generally the 26 to 35 age range.
26 to 35. Why then specifically?
Because that's typically the decade of maximum resource pressure for most people. Your kids are old enough to likely be trusted with financial responsibility, but they're young enough to be grappling with huge financial hurdles. Funding first homes, paying down student debt, managing early childcare costs, maybe navigating career uncertainty. A $50,000 gift, then, can act as incredibly high-leverage seed money. It buys security, options, quality of life during those crucial parenting and career-building years.
Whereas that same $50,000 gift at age 60
is often just, a nice bonus. Less impactful, less life-changing.
And this focus on maximizing utility now isn't just about family, is it? He applies the same logic to charitable giving.
Absolutely. The same cold, hard efficiency. Look at someone like billionaire philanthropist Chuck Feeney. He pioneered the strategy of giving while living.
Right, I've heard of him.
He intentionally lived relatively frugally so he could give away over $8 billion while he was still alive. He wanted to ensure he could see and direct the impact of his giving immediately.
That's a powerful contrast to, well, the alternative.
Exactly. Contrast Feeney's proactive approach with, say, the story of Sylvia Bloom. She was a legal secretary who meticulously, secretly amassed $8.2 million over her long career. Her intentions were clearly good, but she only bequeathed the money upon her death. Think about it. Her designated charities could have put that money to incredible use decades earlier, saving lives, funding research, helping people during all those years she was just silently accumulating.
The inefficiency of delay again.
Right there. It's highlighted by that core message. Your charity can't wait. Your greatest legacy, arguably, for your children and the world is the shared experiences, the intentional impact you create now, not just the leftover money in your will.
Yeah.
#tag outro.
So when you boil it all down, the overarching theme of this entire philosophy seems simple, yet really powerful. Stop living life on financial autopilot.
That's it in a nutshell.
The goal isn't achieving, perfect $0 on your deathbed. That's technically impossible because of lifespan uncertainty.
Right. It's a guiding ideal, not a literal target.
But using that ideal forces you to live more deliberately, to take chances, act on opportunities, maybe every single day.
And it means being analytically bold, especially when you're young. The logic of asymmetric risk is just overwhelmingly in your favor during those early time buckets.
Explain that a bit more, asymmetric risk.
Well, when you have little to lose financially because you haven't accumulated much yet,
Right.
the downside of failure, say starting a business or taking a travel sabbatical, is relatively low. You've got decades left to recover, to reload, but the potential upside, the lessons learned, the memories made, the career pivots discovered is absolutely huge.
So your greatest fear ought to be.
The wasting of your finite life and time,
Yeah.
not worrying excessively about whether you'll have some arbitrary dollar amount sitting there when you're 80.
And as a final, maybe highly provocative thought to leave people with, the author actually uses an app.
He does, an application called Final Countdown, which literally tracks the estimated days left until his projected death date.
Wow, that sounds potentially morbid.
It might sound morbid or macabre to some, yeah. But for him, that daily explicit reminder provides the necessary urgency. It pushes him to live mindfully, to make conscious choices about using his finite time before those precious windows of experience close forever.
It's that essential psychological pushback, isn't it? Against the human inertia, that tendency we all have to just delay happiness, defer living.
Exactly. It forces you to stop and ask regularly, am I spending my time, my health, and my money in a way that truly maximizes my fulfillment while I still possess the capacity to enjoy it?
That's today's breakdown. While this discussion cannot replace the book's full text, it can offer a glimpse into its teachings. I hope you found this discussion helpful, and I look forward to sharing more. Let me know what book next you want to discuss.